The most famous line in movie history wasn't even the line they filmed. On set, Darth Vader said something completely different, and almost nobody was allowed to know the truth. For decades, the studio sold us one story: visionary genius, seamless magic, one big happy galaxy far, far away. The real set was something else entirely. Painful costumes, bruised egos, secret feuds, last-minute lies, and actors who quietly couldn't stand the whole thing. These are the behind-the-scenes secrets the studio worked hard to keep buried, the ones nobody watching was ever supposed to know. Start with the biggest secret of all. When they filmed the moment Vader reveals he's Luke's father, the line you know wasn't the line they shot. The actor in the suit, David Prowse, was handed fake dialogue. On set, Vader actually says, "Obi-Wan killed your father." The real twist was dubbed in later, in secret. Why? Because a reveal that huge would leak the second a crew of hundreds heard it. So almost no one was told. Only the director, George Lucas, and Mark Hamill knew the truth. And Hamill was pulled aside and given the real line moments before the cameras rolled. He then carried that secret alone for over a year and a half, while the rest of the world and most of his own castmates had no idea. Then there's the actor who gave the whole thing its class and secretly couldn't stand it. Alec Guinness, a giant of British theatre, privately thought the dialogue was, in his own words, fairy tale rubbish. In letters from the set, he groaned about fresh pages of rubbish dialogue arriving on pink paper. And he couldn't even remember Harrison Ford's name, calling him a languid young man named Tennyson Ford. But here's the masterstroke. Guinness didn't just take a paycheck, he negotiated a slice of the film's earnings, just over 2% of the gross, from a movie he quietly mocked. That one deal earned him a fortune estimated around $17 million. The studio leaned on his prestige to sell a risky project, and he leaned right back all the way to the bank. And one of the most romantic lines in the saga was never written. In the script, when Leia tells Han, "I love you," as he's lowered into the freezing chamber, Han was supposed to reply, "I'll be back." Harrison Ford hated it. Too soft, too cliché, all wrong for a guy facing death. After take, the director told him to stop overthinking it and just react. So Ford dropped the script and said 2 words, "I know." The studio loves to look like it follows a perfect master plan. This proves the best moment in the film was invented on the spot. The face of the Empire was wearing slippers. Peter Cushing played Grand Moff Tarkin, the cold, terrifying officer who destroys an entire planet without blinking. But Cushing had size 12 feet, and the stiff Imperial boots were pure agony. So he made a quiet request: "Film me from the waist up." Lucas agreed, and for most of his scenes, the man delivering those chilling, planet-killing lines was padding around the Death Star in comfy carpet slippers, just out of frame. The slippers were real. They later sold at auction. The Empire's menace was held together, literally, by house shoes. Princess Leia's iconic look hid something painful. George Lucas didn't want anything moving under that white gown, and he had a strange justification. "There's no underwear in space," he told Carrie Fisher, arguing that in zero gravity your body expands but your clothes don't, so you'd basically be strangled by your own underwear. The physics were nonsense. The result was not. The wardrobe team taped her chest down flat with industrial gaffer tape every single day of the shoot. Fisher, being Fisher, turned it into a joke for the rest of her life, using it to skewer exactly how the industry treated its young actresses. But underneath the glamour, the reality was tape and discomfort. The galaxy's most lovable duo couldn't stand each other. On screen, C-3PO and R2-D2 are best friends, the comedic heart of the saga. Off-screen, the 2 men inside those suits, Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker, had a feud that lasted decades. Baker said Daniels was the rudest man he'd ever met, recalling a time he tried to say hello, and Daniels turned his back with, "Can't you see I'm having a conversation?" Daniels, for his part, brushed off Baker's contribution entirely, once quipping that R2 could have been played by a bucket. The press team quietly buried the whole thing, because the warm friendship everyone loved was, behind the metal, ice cold. Here's a lighter one they kept off camera. The lightsabers on set make no sound at all. The famous hum and clash are all added later, but the actors, grown professionals, could not stop making the noises themselves. During their very first big duel, Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor both started going vroom and swoosh with their mouths mid-fight, ruining the take. Lucas had to stop filming and gently remind them the sound team had it covered. And it kept happening. Lucas once praised a take from Hayden Christensen, then pointed out his lips were still moving. Even the pros revert to little kids the second you hand them a lightsaber. And the chemistry between Han and Leia was real, in a way nobody was supposed to know for 40 years. During the first film's London shoot, Carrie Fisher, just 19, and Harrison Ford, 33 and married, had a brief, intense affair. Fisher kept it completely private until her final memoir, where she finally wrote about it, drawing on diaries she'd kept at the time. She described it honestly, with fondness and a lot of insecurity, calling Ford emotionally distant and admitting she felt out of her depth. It's a melancholy, very human footnote to the confident swagger their characters wore on screen, and she chose to tell it herself, in her own words, near the end of her life. If you're learning things you never knew about a galaxy you thought you knew, do us a quick favor and subscribe. We dig this deep on the movies you love every week. Okay, back to the secrets. The Queen had a body double, so convincing it fooled the actress's own families. In the first prequel, Queen Amidala uses a decoy handmaiden to fool her enemies, and to sell it, the casting team found someone who looked almost exactly like Natalie Portman. That someone was a young Keira Knightley. In full royal makeup, the two were so identical that crew members mixed them up, and by Knightley's own account, even their own mothers couldn't tell which girl was which on set. To lock the illusion, Lucas later had Portman re-record some of Knightley's lines, so even the voices matched. The galaxy's deadliest bounty hunter also played a random guard, by accident. While filming the second movie, an extra hired to play an Imperial officer, the one who drags Leia away as she shouts her warning to Luke, simply didn't show up. The crew scrambled. They looked around and realized the tailored uniform would fit a man already on set, Jeremy Bulloch, the actor under the Boba Fett armor. So Bulloch stepped out of the most feared costume in the galaxy, threw on the officer's uniform, and grabbed Carrie Fisher. Watch that scene closely, and the man hauling Leia away is Boba Fett himself, with his helmet off. Scrappy, on-the-fly filmmaking, hidden in plain sight. Speaking of illusions the cameras sold, the digital revolution had a hidden cost. Veteran actor Terrence Stamp signed on to the first prequel expecting a rich, collaborative shoot, partly for the chance to work opposite Natalie Portman. He flew all the way to Australia, and she wasn't even there. When he asked who he'd actually be acting with, Lucas pointed to a piece of paper taped to the wall and told him to say his lines to that. Stamp summed up the whole experience in one word: boring. The seamless digital future the studio was selling felt, to the actors living inside it, like performing to an empty room. The new trilogy's lead nearly walked away on day one. When the saga came roaring back, an almost unknown actress, Daisy Ridley, was suddenly carrying an entire franchise. On her very first day, in brutal desert heat, the director gave her a blunt verdict. Her acting was wooden. Ridley has said the words hit so hard she could barely breathe, fighting off a panic attack surrounded by the massive crew, seriously thinking about quitting right there. She didn't. She later understood he was pushing her to the level the role demanded. But the studio absolutely did not want the press knowing their unproven lead had nearly cracked before the first day was even over. And being in the biggest movie on Earth nearly ended a career. After the prequels landed badly with critics, Natalie Portman, a genuinely gifted actress, found herself frozen out. In her own blunt words, everyone thought she was a horrible actress. She was in the biggest grossing movie of the decade, she said, and no director wanted to work with her. The stiff dialogue and the endless blue screen had convinced Hollywood she couldn't act. Her career was rescued by one veteran director who personally wrote letters vouching for her, getting her the role that turned everything back around. So much for the myth that joining this franchise is always a gift. For some, it was a curse they had to climb out of. Before the last one, let's kill a few facts that aren't. No, the scene where a snow creature claws up Luke's face was not secretly written to explain Mark Hamill's real car accident scars. Fisher said it was, but Lucas flatly denies it, and the timeline doesn't line up. So it's a coin toss, not a fact. No, the director of the third film was not a powerless ghost, while Lucas secretly ran everything. The production records are clear. Richard Marquand directed that movie, full stop, even with Lucas hovering as a hands-on producer. And no, David Prowse didn't maliciously leak the father twist to a newspaper back in 1978. He did float a guess to a reporter, but the script with the twist hadn't even been written yet. It wasn't a leak, it was a lucky hunch. Real secrets are documented. These are just repeated until people believe them. Which leaves the secret hiding inside the most iconic villain ever put on screen. The man in the Darth Vader suit, David Prowse, performed every scene, every line, every menacing step, believing audiences would hear his voice. They never did. Prowse spoke with a soft West Country English accent, and Lucas had quietly always planned to replace it. He just never told him. After filming, they brought in James Earl Jones, who recorded all of Vader's dialogue in a matter of hours, for a flat fee of $7,000. And here's the grace note. Jones believed Prowse's physical performance was the real soul of the character, so he chose to go uncredited for years, letting the man in the suit hold the spotlight. Two artists, one body, one voice, fused into a single legend, and for a long time, neither one got the full credit. Both men are gone now. But the villain they built together will outlive us all. That's the thing about this galaxy. The polished magic on screen was held together by tape, slippers, secrets, and a whole lot of human mess behind the camera. So tell us, which of these secrets genuinely surprised you, and which one did you somehow already know? We'll see you in the next one.